Okay, let's look at an example to see how we can symbolize English sentences in TFL. Here's a rather complicated English sentence. If those creatures are chimpanzees, then they are neither gorillas nor men in suits. The first step for symbolizing the sentence is to find a paraphrase that makes the truth conditions of the sentence transparent. So let's think about how we can paraphrase the sentence. I would suggest the following paraphrase. If those creatures are chimpanzees, then it is not the case that those creatures are gorillas, and it is not the case that those creatures are men in suits. Now, this paraphrase sounds a little clumsy. In ordinary life, we wouldn't use this sentence to tell other people about facts out there. However, it is useful because it helps us to make the truth conditions of our original sentence transparent. Now, in the second step, we need to identify the atomic sentences in our paraphrase. So I would suggest the following. One atomic sentences, those creatures are chimpanzees. That's our first atomic sentence. A second atomic sentence is those creatures are gorillas. And the third atomic sentence is those creatures are men in suits. So we have three atomic sentences. Those creatures are chimpanzees, those creatures are gorillas, and those creatures are men in suits. Next, we are going to introduce a symbolization key that tells us which atomic sentences are represented by which capital letters. So I'm going to stipulate the following. The capital letter A is going to represent the sentence, those creatures are chimpanzees. The capital letter B is going to represent the sentence, those creatures are gorillas. And the capital letter C is going to represent the sentence, those creatures are men in suits. Okay, now we have a symbolization key. In the next step, we need to identify the relevant Boolean connectives. And given our paraphrase, that is actually pretty easy now. If, then, is going to be represented by the arrow. It is not the case that is going to be represented by the negation sign. The word and is going to be represented by the conjunction symbol. And then it is not the case that is again going to be represented by the negation sign. Now we need to reflect a little bit on what our main connective here is. And I think the main connective really is the conditional. So what the sentence is telling us is that if those creatures are chimpanzees, then all the rest after the conditional, after the arrow follows. So that is our main connective. And I'm going to remind myself of this fact by just putting brackets around this final part here. And now we are almost done. We just need to put it all together. So we can symbolize this sentence as follows. If A, then opening bracket, not B, and not C. And that's it. That's our symbolization of the English sentence. If those creatures are chimpanzees, then they are neither gorillas nor men in suits. Let's look at a second example. Again, a rather complicated English sentence. If Ava is not an electrician, then neither Harrison is, but if she is, then he is too. Let's start with a paraphrase. If it is not the case that Ava is an electrician, then it is not the case that Harrison is an electrician. But if Ava is an electrician, then Harrison is an electrician. As in our previous example, this paraphrase sounds clumsy. That's not the way you would talk to your friend. But it really helps us to make the underlying structure and the truth conditions of our given sentence transparent. Now that we have this paraphrase, in the next step, we need to identify the atomic sentences in our paraphrase. And I see a couple atomic sentences. So the first atomic sentence that I'm seeing is Ava is an electrician. And that atomic sentence actually appears twice. It appears up there in the first line, and then it appears here again. And then the second atomic sentence that I'm seeing is Harrison is an electrician. And that sentence also appears twice. Okay, that was the second step. We have our paraphrase. We have identified our atomic sentences. Next, we need to think about the Boolean next we need to give a symbolization key. So let's give a symbolization key. I'm going to represent the atomic sentence Eva is an electrician by means of the capital letter A, and I'm going to represent the atomic sentence Harrison is an electrician by means of the capital letter B. And for both of occurrences of these sentences, I'm going to use the same capital letter. Okay, so we have a paraphrase, we have identified the atomic sentences, and we have given a symbolization key. Next, we need to think about the Boolean connectives. Let's first reflect on what's the main Boolean connective. I think it's this one here, but. The whole sentence intuitively tells us that that the first thing, that there is a certain conditional, and that's true, and the conditional is true, and there's a second conditional, and that second conditional is also true. And we saw earlier that we can represent the word but by means of the conjunction symbol or the upside down V. So that's our main connective, and I'm going to emphasize to myself or remind myself that this is the main connective by putting parentheses around both parts to the left and to the right. So we have a big conjunction with a big conjunct to the left and a big conjunct to the right. Okay, what are the other Boolean connectives? I see the word if-then, the words if-then. So that's going to be symbolized by means of the arrow. And I also see if-then again down here, and that's again going to be represented by the arrow. And I see the words it is not the case that twice over. And on both occasions, that's going to be symbolized by means of the negation symbol. Okay, we are almost done. Now we just need to put it all together. So the symbolization of our whole sentence is going to look like this. Opening brackets. If not A, then not B. And if A, then B. And that's it. That's our symbolization of the English sentence. If Ava is not an electrician, then neither is Harrison, but if she is, then he is too. Okay, so these were the general rules for how to symbolize English sentences in TFL. Next, we are going to look at a few special cases.